I have two people. Can you guys hear me? Can think so. Three people. Ah! Thank you, Greg. Oh, now I'm back down to two. I think one of them might be me. Oh, okay. There goes two. Hey! Four. Oh my God, people are actually joining. Thank you, Scott. Five. Holy smokes. This is exciting. I tried, but I think the AT actually crushed me. 8 people? Wow. I want to do this more often. Sheesh. Questions? Hello. You guys see me chewing on something. I'm eating a veggie breakfast sandwich because I'm hungry. Question, what hike is next? So long hike, like really long hike, somewhere in the AT over 2,000 miles would be the Continental Divide. Something is very attractive about not as many people. I guess now I kind of rock the AT. I mean, I had a little tramley, but I did a lot of it pretty much solo or like with very few people. So the Continental Divide, that sounds pretty nice. And just like the views and the vistas are insane. I haven't actually watched any videos on the Continental. I don't want to like, it's like for the AT, I wanted to do the AT for so long. So like for like 3 years leading up to the AT, I watched like YouTubers. Well, besides COVID year, people, dropped out and I didn't do much in regards to watching people's YouTubes for COVID year. But yeah, the Continental Divide, I just like, I want to work more and save up more money. I know like it's not a super expensive trail. Well, like it is, but it's not because there's not a whole lot there. But long story short, Continental Divide, and then more. I want to finish the Pinhoti, and I think like part of me wants to start from the beginning because I don't know if you guys watched any of the Pinhoti Trail videos. They were really crappy, so I don't blame you for not doing that. But they basically all my videos got lost because Apple, and the same thing happened in the Smokies, which is why I don't have any footage of the Smokies, just pictures. Okay, sorry, let me so maybe finish the Pinhoti or restart it. It's like 350 miles. Mountains to Sea Trail sounds pretty good. I would also kind of like to connect the Foothills Trail with the Bartram or Benton MacKay. I forget which one connects right there. It's like 4 miles apart from the terminuses. But I love the Foothills so much. I would totally do it again. Okay. Hope that answered your question, Scott. How are my feet and knees? Honestly, they're pretty good. So I haven't gotten an actual pedicure yet because I've first of all, when I got back, I did not have my car. So I was kind of stuck at my sister's apartment, just, not doing much. And then the other part of that was I pretty darn broke from the trail. So I mean, I have to like still buy stuff. I'm moving into a house, so I have to like I'm not buying a house, I'm renting with roommates, but I have to like buy furniture, like bedroom stuff. And then like new work clothes because A, like all my clothes are too big on me, and then B, I just don't really have any. But my feet are doing good. I gave myself a pedicure. I went and bought some like Epsom salt, soaked them, and then like took a pumice rock and like scrubbed my foot, which it's not a good idea if you're ticklish. But my calluses, not many people I feel like talk about this, but my calluses on my toes, they I wish I could see your guys' faces. My calluses on my toes were like falling off and softening, especially like every time my feet got a little like damp or wet from like a shower or go in the pool at my sister's apartment. So I would want to pick up my toes. So I was just like, I can't like, and she was even like, dude, your toes are nasty. You need to like do something about them. So I took a rock and I scrubbed my toes and they're good. My knees are good too. A couple times I've gone running. They sorry, Sky. They I would feel a little bit of knee pain, mostly my right knee. So, but overall, like my joints are fine. Can't complain. But I think like I would like to do some like patellar strengthening exercises before I did any sort of hike again, as well as strengthen. I forget. I think it was just the knee strengthening exercise, one that I saw on like Instagram, and then there was a couple others, and then whatever I can do to like prevent future shin splint pain. Because as you guys know, that took me off trail for like a week and a half, like 2 weeks really. I know you started early. Did you have any days where you got wet or cold enough to come close to No, luckily I did not. That was my fear about going into the Smokies, and that's another reason I took a week and a half off. At the NOC, I got off trail, and my little brother picked me up. And sorry if I'm yelling, but my little brother picked me up, took me back home to Georgia, and I also like when I went back home, I got the Good Feet insoles, and that's what I wore for the rest of my hike. What else did I do? I got my taxes straightened out because they were getting rejected, and I wanted that tax return. And then something else happened. Oh, I think I went through my boxes again. And I kind of like took a lot of the candy out because when I was on the Pinhoti Trail, so I made all my boxes before I got on any trail. And then when I was on the Pinhoti, I was eating a lot of candy because, that's what I thought hikers do is they eat a lot of candy. Well, it didn't work for me. It was like giving me inflammation. And I think that was one of the reasons why my shins were having such a problem was candy and sugar. So I like cut back on a lot of sugar. So no hypothermia because I got out pretty much. And I packed my stuff pretty well. Like I knew relatively well what I was doing. Like I carried a raincoat, rain pants. I'm gonna buy a new pack cover. And I had like sealskin socks, layers, gloves. I did have glove covers, and both of the ones I did buy for the trail sucked. So you're planning a future through hike, do not spend $50 on the outdoor research. Raiment covers, they suck. Go dogs, yes, Greg. Let's see. Do you plan to Triple Crown? I used to plan to Triple Crown, but and this is another, I do not like the desert. I do not like sun. I do not like being without water. I'm not like the sun, but I like being in a canopy when there's sun. I like having water. I don't like snakes, especially venomous snakes. Luckily, like in Pennsylvania, I didn't really run into that many snakes. I saw 3 rattlesnakes, and they're all like in the rocks off trail. Went out to go look at a view. So Triple Crown, I don't know. And that's part of me is like wary of the CDT as well, because I know like New Mexico, obviously that's a desert. But I think the CDT, because it has like a lot of vistas, that would be really cool to do. Favorite pieces of gear, basically all my sleeping stuff. So like I carried an inflatable pad. I carried both a little accordion style closed cell phone, which I ditched in Andover because I was just like, I want to lighten my pack as much as I can at this point. But like all my sleeping gear. So like I started with head to knee sleeping pad, and I was like freezing my butt off in February with that thing, and that was like a 4R value, and that was I can't remember what it was, but then I went to a Thermarest X-Therm for a while. then when I went home, I actually dumped that one because it was heavier. And because I was getting on like mid to late February again, I was like, oh, I should be fine with just a full length pad with like a 4.2, 4.3 R value and a 0 degree bag. And once you go full length, personally, I'm never going back to like 3/4 length. It's worth the wait. Let's see, what state do I live in? So I used to live in Georgia and I just moved to Tennessee. I don't like the sun either. It's pretty brutal, especially if you're rocking the blonde hair. Chickpea, hey, Sue. Have you ever hiked the Long Trail? I hiked half the Long Trail on the AT. Funnily, that was a trail that got me interested into the AT. I think like I saw the boardwalks, those dang boardwalks I fell on a couple times. Not even on the Long Trail. It was in Massachusetts, like right past the Cookie Lady's house. But I actually saw the boardwalks, and for some reason, between the boardwalks and the forest and the image, I was like, this trail, whatever it is, looks amazing. And then I even watched a documentary on this woman who like attempted to FKT it. I think she got the women's record, but she didn't beat the men's record. And that's on like Netflix. But yeah, I originally wanted to do the Long Trail, and I'm kind of glad I did it because I've heard that the northern half is brutal. So, but I think I do want to complete it eventually. We make one continuous AT video. That I want to do that sort of. But the hard thing about that is I don't have anything from Smokies. So that kind of sucks, you know. I'm gonna be missing a piece. And then I don't know if you guys have been watching like the 2 shorts I put out of like the first 2 weeks on the AT, but I've been having to like screen record the videos I posted because I'm a dum dum and I deleted the videos from my phone and from like my phone memory, like the recently deleted thing because they was taking up space on my phone, and I didn't realize that like, and I hadn't bought like more Apple storage or Google storage at the time, so those things are gone. So I've been having to screen record the clips to make them into the YouTube shorts and the TikTok things. I'm not good at TikTok or social media, as you guys can tell. What parts of the trail were most overcrowded for camping? When I got back on trail at the NOC, Sassafras Gap Shelter, that bad boy was packed. And the worst thing about that was I got back on at like 1 or 2 o'clock in the afternoon. So I had about 4 hours of daylight left. It was still like February, so sunset was pretty early still. And anyone who's hiked the AT in the south, especially coming out of NOC northbound, even southbound, that does not look like fun. But northbound, it is a hell of a hike, just straight uphill for like at least close to 4 miles. And I ended up like doing a little, like maybe 30 minutes of night hiking into camp that night, but and they had some really good sights before getting to Sassafras. However, there wasn't any water, so and I needed water. But when I pulled up to Sassafras Gap Shelter, it was like super full. The shelter wasn't quite full, but like there was people everywhere. The next crowded place was the first Molly shelter in the Smokies. That was pretty crowded. And then I just heard on the podcast what shelter is that? It's the last shelter in the Smokies. Whoever knows it can comment it. Hey Bob. But the last shelter in the Smokies, something Gap shelter. Anybody. Rehike the Smokies. I know, I kind of want to, but it's summer. Well, now it's September, but it's still pretty hot. But that shelter, that was pretty packed because there was like a Boy Scout troop or something, and then like there were some Sobos going on with it. Bye, Bob. Sorry, I'm getting emails now all of a sudden. Whatever shelter that was a pretty crowded shelter. Last shelter in the Smokies. Before Standing Bear. Anywhere else I can remember. There's been some crowded hostels. Technically, it's not really camping. I don't want to hike the Smokies during a big snow. You're nuts. Everyone I know that's had a hike through a couple of the blizzards, they did not have a fun time. So good luck. You're gonna want to bring some crampons. Let's see. What was the hardest lesson you learned while on the trail? That's a good question. There's a lot of lessons I learned. The hardest. A lot of, like, a saying that I had often was progress is progress. So like some days you really want to put in the miles, but you're just exhausted. Like there are so many factors at play and you're just tired. So accepting that any sort of progress is good progress as long as you're taking a step north. I think that's a good one. If you're on a budget like myself, there are some things you have to say no to, and saying no and walking away from certain situations, that's a hard thing to do because like obviously there's peer pressure and everyone's having fun doing the thing, but you had made a plan, and I don't regret having the plan that I had. But like you've already decided what your hike is going to be. And, that changes every day still, but some things, you just have to say no to, and I think that's a hard thing for a lot of people as well. I want to hike the Smokies. Oh yeah. Any other questions? I can think of more lessons. When you're tired, stop. When you're hungry, stop. Stop and eat, that means. Some vistas are not worth it, but that's not really a lesson. That's just kind of a thing. Like, just kind of peek through the trees. If it's not, don't look good, don't waste your time. Best trail towns, man. See, I didn't spend too much time in trail towns, but so I think the ones I had a lot of like really good stuff. Let me think. Okay, Hiawassee, that was a bit of a way off town or a way off trail. So was Clayton, but if you go to around the Bend Hostel, they'll drive you to either one. And Clayton has a lot more to offer than Hiawassee, in my opinion. Franklin was great. I liked Franklin, although I'm still have a grudge against Outdoor 76 for putting me in those Salmons. What was after that? I should have a list. I should have my map. Let me get my map out. How many pairs of shoes did I go through? I love Clayton. I'll answer the first one for JJ. I went through, I think, 5. So I started with a pair of Timps. They were just kind of small on my feet, so I just sent them home. Actually, they're sitting in a post office somewhere. I have no idea where they are. And then I got the Salomons. I hiked about 500 miles in the Salomons. Got new shoes. Over 600 miles in Salomons. I got new shoes in that town that's just south of Daleville. So that was pair 3. Those were Timps. Hiked from Daleville to Harper's Ferry, and got another pair of Timps. I wore those shoes all the way to, I think, New Hampshire, like Lincoln, New Hampshire, around Lincoln, like right south of Mount Moosilauke. And I got in a pair of Timp 4s. Those guys blew up on me. And then my last pair, I finished in a pair of Olympuses that I was swimming in. Okay, so 5, like 4.5. But I did, and I did buy an extra pair of Timps that I meant to send myself, but I figured like it's kind of a waste of like postal money. So I now am wearing those here, off trail life. Can only section hike. Which ones would I recommend? I heard this on a podcast recently too, and I agree with it. But it's like the Road Mountain area. So basically from like Mountain Harbor Hostel south to whatever shelter that is, like Road Mountain Shelter, I think, or High Mountain Shelter. Or even like the barn, wherever it goes across, like the barn and like I think it's like one of the highest shelters on the AT, especially like in the South. That's a wonderful section. I mean, the Smokies, that's a great section if you can hit it in the springtime or the fall time, but you got to be wary of like leaf peepers. And like, I don't think many people would be hiking in the spring except for through hikers and just general section hikers. I honestly don't think winter would be that bad as long as you're watching the conditions. The only thing about winter in the Smokies you have to remember is that you're above elevation, normal elevation for the whole time you're in there for 70 miles. Around Max Patch, that's a pretty great section. I mean, I just love the southern half. I mean, the whites were obviously beautiful, but they were really hard. So if you have like $1,000 and you want to hit up those huts, pay an outrageous amount of money for those huts, you can do that. But then you're only doing like 5 to 10 miles a day. What other sections? The Shenandoahs, I don't really care for because honestly, if I were to do it again, I would just walk the road on the Shenandoah. I like to gray blaze, and I don't know if you guys remember what I defined gray blazing as, but it was taking the road that ran parallel to the AT or the old AT, which I believe is the Blue Ridge Parkway. That is the old AT that I gray blazed, and then the Shenandoah, like the Shenandoah Parkway, whatever that thing is called, Skyline Drive, that is also the old AT. So, or I would aqua blaze the Shenandoah. But when I went through, we had 2 hot days, and the rest of the time was pretty cold, aside from the last day. What other sections? Let me get my map out. Sorry, guys. I still have trail brain. Southern Virginia, leaving Pearisburg, there's a really pretty shelter right out of Pearisburg. Or not that the shelter is pretty in particular, but the shelter is at a really awesome view, and I think that's a great place to hike to and kind of through. It was a bit tough, but I mean it's definitely doable. What's happening to this thing? Okay. Pennsylvania, honestly, not that bad. I really like Pennsylvania, especially if you can hit it in the springtime. There's tons and tons of ferns. Let me see. The 100-mile wilderness, obviously, especially the northern half. Like, I would love to go back and do the 100-mile wilderness, but just like the northern half and like Skep Katahdin, I already did it. But like go right up to like whatever, I forget the name of that shelter because I didn't stay there. The shelter just at the base of Katahdin. I feel like I should know it. It's Katahdin Stream Shelter. So like, or like hike from there south to whatever road you can get access to. And they usually do a food drop halfway through if you link up with Shaw's or whatever. But just like you just do like 10 miles a day through 10 or 15 through the northern half of the 100 because it was so pretty, and there's tons of ponds you can stop at and go during blueberry season. Oh my god, the blueberries are amazing. Anyways, I hope that answered your question, Mudflap. Do you still have close friends with you made on the trail? Honestly, I didn't make that many close friends. I wish I had made more of a point of doing that. I mean, obviously, Coasty, I actually just got done hanging out with him this past weekend. We went on a hike in Alabama and just hung out. And then, I mean, I need to check up with some people whose contact information I do have, but I have their social media. So I've been kind of conversating with them through social, but I would like to have made more of an effort to get their information because like even people's trail names, like I was starting to write them down in the beginning on my phone, and then part of the way through I would just forget to write them down or just be like, I probably won't ever see him again or whatever. And then the more people I met, I wish I'd written their names down. Or like when I was talking to Coasty this past weekend, I like like, oh, this hiker, but I can't remember the name. I should have wrote his name down. So like, I wish I'd done that. So I kind of made friends, kind of didn't. I made friends on the trail that were like, oh, Pesto, yeah, I know her, or oh, so and so, I know him. But they weren't like, I saw him all the time. I hiked with him. There was a guy at Walden that I kept bouncing around, especially in the 100. I was finally doing big enough miles, like keep up with another person. And I actually like rode the bus home with him, and we stayed at the same hostel in Millinocket together. And he was really cool. And I honestly wish I got his information too, because he said his real name, but I don't remember it anymore. I just know his trail name is Walden. So if you're out there, hey dude, hope you're doing well in Pennsylvania. What was something that was just not worth the money? Town food. Those restaurants, people like in Far Out, Gahook, even like other people you're hiking around, they will be like, this restaurant is good. No, it was not good. And like me and Cozy were talking about that too. And like we talked about this all the time on the trail, and we talked about it off trail. But we were talking about like people would just be like, oh, like this restaurant, whether it was like a Mexican restaurant, an Asian restaurant, whatever it was, is amazing. And then I would eat there and I'm like, what are they talking about? This was not good food. So like the best thing you could probably do for yourself hiking the trail that has a grocery store is just go to the grocery store, buy whatever food you want to cook, and just cook it in the hostel, because it's going to taste so much better, and it's going to probably be healthier for you, cheaper, and actually taste good. So the only qualm I have about that statement though is all the breakfast diners. Those were always really amazing. So and if you guys watch my videos, I love breakfast food. So how many days did you summit before Kosi? I live in Clayton. 2 to 3 weeks. So he got 2 to 3 weeks behind me, or I got 2 to 3 weeks ahead of him, or maybe a whole month. It was somewhere between 2 weeks and 4. You live in Clayton. That's awesome. I love Clayton. So cute. Do you go to Wander North Georgia? They were also another sort of influencer prior to starting the trail. I haven't ever gone to the store. I've never bought anything like that, but I used to follow them on Instagram. They would post photos of like certain hikes of the trail, of blazes, peaks. And so that kind of got me a bit more into hiking. And I was also into photography for a little bit. I have a photography account. It's like Jen's Photos, something on Instagram, but nice. Any other questions? Kosi liked to party, didn't he? Yes, he did. And that is why we split up. We first split up in Delaware Water Gap. And then I did like, I don't know if you guys remember the video in New Jersey, like the first day in New Jersey, I did like 22 miles. And then like that night, I got turned around in the woods, and that was pretty scary. And I think it might have taken me like close to an hour to get back to my shelter. Thank God I had Far Out on my phone, but yeah, I got turned around in the woods and I was just exhausted. Like that just like left me depleted the next day. I think I still did like 16 or 17 miles. And then it just started to like kind of slowly go down from there. And then I think by like day 4 or 3 out of Delaware Water Gap, I went into Unionville, New York, which is like right on the border of New York and New Jersey. And yeah, so I went in there and it's been like a day and a half in Unionville, and that guy got me to move this giant heavy stone from like, it was only like 20 feet, but it was so big. It took like 3 of us, and like we just kind of rigged it to like we had like these metal poles moving it and sliding it, and then it was really kind of incredible that we even moved that stone. It was like blue stone or something like that. It was really big. Yeah, so then he convinced me to hike to Warwick, New Jersey, New York, whatever, to the movie theater place. And I got there and I hiked out the next day, and he and like two other hikers, Gimp and Fallout, they did a beer challenge, a 10 by 10 by 10. So 10 beers or a 12 by 12. I think they were trying to do a 12 by 12 by 12. So 12 beers, 12 miles. I don't know what the third one is. But I think they drank all of them within 4 and just got really drunk and then going back to Warwick. And they spent like 3 or 4 days in Warwick. So yeah. And then I just got ahead of him at that point. I saw Fallout again. He actually passed me in Connecticut, and then he had to get off trail a couple times. And I think that was like the last time I actually saw him. Long story, sorry. If you did the trail again, what date would you start? Oh man, I'm torn between starting earlier than what I did. When I did, so like technically I started February 2nd. And part of me would think that would be cool to start like mid-January, but also it's insane. And then another part of me is really curious about the bubble. I'm starting within the bubble. So like mid-March. I don't think I would go any later than mid-March though, because of how hot it gets on the East Coast and humid and dry, especially like I just made it through Pennsylvania before it got really dry and really droughty. So I'm very happy that I did that. How much did I spend? That's a great question. I have no idea. I've not added the numbers together between, it was at least probably $800 in postage. I know I spent at least $400 and around 400, maybe less, and like all the food that I bought beforehand. Probably another $300 in town resupply. And at least another 4,000 on top of that from what I'd saved for the trail. I think. I need to put those numbers together. I'm actually really curious, but I know it's going to be like a lot of delving into like history for purchases. I should have taken pictures of receipts and all that jazz, but yeah, I could probably guess around 5,000 to 6. Who was the most unique person I met? Unique person. I don't really know. I didn't. Luckily, because I started so early, I didn't have any like special characters, like weirdos on trail. Luckily, I mean, Kosie's pretty unique. That's for sure. Catfish is hilarious. I think I only got one clip of him. He likes to do like a goat call or something. It's really funny. Other unique people. Not many particularly special people. There was a couple. Oh, there's a woman. I don't know if she ended up completing the trail or if she's still on trail or what, but she is attempting to be the oldest woman on trail. Her name is Titanium, I think, but she has like metal hips, metal knees. She was pretty cool. And I met her like on my very first day. Like after I did the approach trail, she was, or it was like right before I did the approach trail, I think, or on the way up. Any scary moments? I feel like there were a couple scary moments. When I fell in Vermont and hit my head, I was scared that could take me off trail, or not really that it would take me off trail, but that like I did something to myself when I fell because I had a knot on my head. And I was by myself when it happened, so I had no clue if I like passed out or anything at any point. And then I actually had to hike a mile and a half back to a shelter where I was hoping there would be people, and luckily there had been. And it was funny because I met one of the people that his name was Rabbit. I met him in Hot Springs, and he had gone so far ahead. He got up to Harper's Ferry and took 2 months off trail, and then he finally caught up to me. / I caught up to him in Vermont. So I thought that was quite incredible. That was a scary moment. I thought I broke my toe in Connecticut. That was a little scary. And then my toenail actually ended up falling off. That was gross. when I fell right below McAfee and I gashed my knee, I was scared of potential infection because I still had a whole day to get to town because I got on trail that day like around 4 or 5 p.m. So I only had a couple hours to hike. So I hiked up to McAfee and I had friends up there and they actually cleaned out my knee for me because I was too much of a pansy to do it myself. And then we got into Daleville and they cleaned it again. And that's when I spent 3 days in Daleville. Yeah. But I was scared of infection because it took a really long time for it to close. And then, of course, I fell two more times throughout the trail on that knee and broke open the wound. I have a pretty nasty scar and it's still purple. Other scary times. Going over Standing Indian Mountain way down south in North Carolina, I saw a hog in the middle of the trail, but it was still like it was a couple hundred feet ahead of me, but I didn't know if it was a mama or a papa and if it had any babies nearby, and that was kind of scary. I was a little scared of bears in New Jersey because I did see a bear that did not care for me at all, and that was in New Jersey, and I believe that's in the video. Day whatever, but I yelled at it, didn't move. I was yelling and hiking and collecting my pulse together, and I did jump back in the forest, but only by 10 feet. So was a little scared of that, but it was from where I was at the shelter. It was about 4 miles back, where I ended up camping. Weather-wise, I don't think I was ever particularly scared weather-wise, luckily. Never really scared of the cold. In North Carolina as well, like right before the 100-mile mark, there was supposedly a guy who was squatting at a shelter, and I was a little scared that he was still there, but I was camping around like 3 older gentlemen, so like luckily if there had been an issue, I was protected. But he wasn't there when we showed up. And that was kind of an area where I was also scared of bears because it had been posted that like bears were an issue because of course the state of North Carolina does not have any bear cans or bear boxes or any of the lines. Which if it's that big of a problem, then there needs to be something there. I don't know. But I was a little scared of bears that night, but luckily it was good. All good. We hung our food. When I woke up in Tennessee and I had a missing shoelace, I sincerely thought somebody took a shoelace off, just one pair of my shoes. They had walked up to my tent, went into my vestibule and took my shoes, or took a shoe and just took the lace, but it ended up just being a mouse or something. I think that might be it for scary moments, but nothing too crazy. 18 is pretty mellow. How many injuries did I get? So great question. Kind of went into that a little bit. So the toe, the shin splints, we'll say shin splints twice. The ankles a little bit, not really an injury, it's just an overuse thing. Technically an injury, I guess. My head. Did I say the knee? I guess about six injuries. What would you do differently if I did the trail again? Oh man, honestly, so many things. I'm happy I did it in the way that I did it, but I think I would make more of a point to get with people who wanted to hike the same miles I wanted to do. So, and that kind of like was there in the beginning, and it fell apart in the middle, and then I had to pick it up again at the end. So maybe just being more consistent. Saving more money, maybe boxes or no boxes. I think I would do the boxes again, but like actually have a scale and weigh the boxes because some of those boxes I had were heavy. And I was telling Kosi about that earlier today, but I was like, I would weigh my boxes before I sent them out. Yeah, those were some of the things. Maybe make a point to do more things off trail. But that was kind of like I went into the hike being like, I'm just hiking the AT. I'm not there to spend time in town. do all the social things. So the AT is known to be a social trail, but I didn't want a social experience because like I'm coming from college, I'm coming from having a really busy schedule. The last thing I want to do is consistently surround myself around people, towns, traffic. Like that was one of the most annoying things going into towns, was having to deal with like traffic. Ugh. I don't like the sound of like cars going by. It like makes me really anxious. So that was annoying, and like doing the road walks and stuff like that. I would definitely train better. So I really didn't train at all before getting on the trail. Besides doing like 100 miles of the Pinhoti Trail, but I'm gonna chalk that one up to having a fractured foot. 3 months before getting on trail, so I got a fractured foot when I finished the Foothills Trail, and I think I just came down the Foothills Trail too fast, or like the last mountain on the Foothills Trail, without like proper support on my shoes. So I was wearing like minimalist shoes, and those videos are also up. If you guys want to check those out, they're longer. They're like 30 minutes long each, but excellent fall colors. Yeah, I had a fractured foot from like middle November to basically middle January, and that's when I got on to the Pinhoti Trail. And anything a novice hiker could benefit from that most people don't talk about. Trisha, do you want to be more specific about that? Because there's a lot of things. So like the callus is falling off your feet when you finish. That's a thing. Not being hungry at first, like because your appetite hasn't really kicked in. Like it might be even less than what you're used to in your normal life, because you expect when you go out there, you're going to be really hungry because you're hiking. But in the beginning, you're not that hungry. And then eventually, you start to get hungrier and hungrier. But even then, people consistently pack food. Oh, shoot. Anything else I can think about? Novice tips. Don't need that much water, especially in the South, especially in like winter to like early spring. Water is not that big a deal. I mean, obviously, maybe check if you have far out, or the AWOL guide, just check your spring, or like check how far your springs are. But like when you are hiking, the thing that I did that helped a lot was like carry no more than a liter, unless you know it's going to be 10 or more miles. And maybe carry a liter and a quarter, a liter and a half. But you don't need that much water. Electrolytes, some people will argue against electrolytes. Coasty, but they are important, and yeah, they help me. Exactly what I was worried about. Things related to trail life that you didn't realize are part of the trail until you're out there. I honestly did, I was obsessed with doing the AT. So I did a lot of like research going into it, and like a lot of like YouTube watching of like other hikers, like Juliana Chauncey of Backpacker Radio. I watched her. And then last year I watched probably about half of Meandering Megan on YouTube, and the Night Hamster Girl that got really popular last year. So I did a lot of like pre-planning and research and watching. So there's not many things that, because I wasn't a total novice when I walked into the AT. So not many things I didn't already know about, but maybe things that like when I first started. I mean, my setup when I first started hiking was like ridiculous. It was like a 35-liter pack that I brought out on an overnight hike. I had a water bladder attached to like a Walmart fanny pack. I had my sleeping bag strapped on the outside, and thank God it did not ring, because that would have been screwed. And then like a Walmart shelter also. So I mean, when I was a novice hiker, I was a novice hiker. But I just kind of learned. I watched a lot of Dixie, Homie Wanderlust on YouTube. Anything else I can think about though? I feel like people forget to sleep with their like electronics and their water filter. And honestly, if you're ever going into a hike and like anytime earlier than June, or maybe depending on where you are, I guess like anytime earlier than May or like late April, even in the South, just sleep at least with your water filter, because there are some folks who who like forgot to sleep with their water filter, ended up freezing overnight, and then their water filter was bust. So sleep with your filter, sleep with your electronics even. I actually learned this from Mushroom, like the third or fourth night on the trail. She slept with her shoes in her sleeping bag. And that prevented them from freezing because when I woke up, everything was frozen. But she, besides my electronics and my filter, but she didn't have frozen shoes because she slept with them. So that was pretty cool. I did that the next day and it was fine. Or even like bringing, what I also learned, bring your water, like if it's gonna freeze overnight, you don't necessarily have to sleep with your water, but you can bring your water into your shelter. And being close to your body heat is enough for it to not freeze as well. Hope that answers some of your questions, Trish. If it didn't, continue commenting and I can think of more things to say. The shoelace incident, yeah, that was nuts. I used paracord to lace up my shoe. And then Monarch stole, she didn't really, I mean, they were like loaner shoes or they were like shoes that were abandoned at another hostel, but she took laces for me and I ended up using a spare pair of laces and carried extra laces for a while because I was afraid of that happening again. And then I slept with my shoes from almost that point forward, but there were a couple times I didn't bring them in with me. That was just surprising. Like I wouldn't have expected that to happen. Favorite view on trail. Oh man, that's tough. I mean, going over, it's in the Whites. Geez, not the presidentials. It's before the presidential. We're like Lincoln and all that is. What is that? Franconia Ridge. That was awesome. I mean, that was incredible. It was a really hard hike going north. My pack was full, but that was pretty sweet. Everyone raves about McAfee Knob. Honestly, that's an overrated view of the trail. That's just probably not a popular opinion, but that's my opinion. Wasn't amazing. I thought some parts like going north of McAfee, you're hiking towards Tinker Cliffs. There are some really, really awesome stuff going that way because you get the mountains and then there's a river like right below the mountains and that's really beautiful. Even Tinker Cliffs might be better than McAfee, or north of Tinker, you're about to go into Daleville. There's some really awesome stuff where you're like, there's a giant like rock wall. There was like it's supposed to be a name of it in the in Far Out, and I forgot what it was called. But there's a giant rock wall you're hiking against or next to, and then you like break free of the rock wall, and there's like more mountain and like giant lake river views. It's pretty sweet. Any other great views, memorable views? I mean, I have a really soft spot for Preacher's Rock and Blood Mountain. On the AT, luckily, I've done those as day hikes prior to actually getting out there. Oh, and then like maybe 17 miles into the AT, so right before you hit Woody Gap Shelter or Woody Gap, just south of that, there's really awesome stuff. But when I hiked through, it was like rainy all day, my second day on trail, so I didn't see that one again. But I've seen that one before, and I know what's there, and I know that's a really spectacular view as well. Oh man, in Vermont, all those fire towers like Stratton, and there's one that's where the G, I think. I'm gonna mess it up if I try to say it, but like those fire tower views in Vermont were really awesome. Greylock was pretty cool. Anything else? They go state by state. That'd be a fun one. The Smokies was pretty cool. I had really great weather like the first half of the Smokies. Man, there was a day, I think it was like the fourth day in the Smokies. The weather had finally had a break and I was like above the clouds and that was just cool on its own. And then I got to like this clearing where there was once an old helicopter pad and it was like an open view there. And that was freaking awesome. But I don't have any of the freaking videos, so you guys don't even know. PCT in the future. Yeah, I was talking about that earlier. I don't know because the fires are burning up the West Coast. That makes me fearful of even the CDT or any trails out west. So the fires are a big concern. And then the desert. I don't like being without a steady source of water. I don't want to drink from cow troughs. I don't want to drink from cow ponds. So maybe if I had someone like being like my assistant up through like the first couple 100 miles, or what is it, like 700 miles is desert, maybe the first like half the PCT would be great if I had like an assistant to like give me water every day, maybe. But there's a lot of sun, reptiles. I feel like pitching a tent, for some reason I think pitching a tent is like impossible in the desert. People do it, of course, but I just feel like you want to be able to get your stakes in the ground because the ground's so hard because it's desert. But I'm sure it's very possible, and I'm just making assumptions. Exactly what I was wondering about. Things related to trail life you don't realize have this trail until you're out there. Oh, I think I've already seen this. Is this a camping channel? It can be. I mean, I just so Wang Preacha. I just completed the Appalachian Trail. It's 2,200 miles, and I camped in the woods every night. Did I film every night? What it was like camping in the woods? Not necessarily, but it's more of a hiking channel. But I did camp, and I have like other hikes out there, but I can do camping stuff. If that's something you want to see, you can shoot me an email or a message or leave a comment somewhere, and I can definitely do camping stuff. But it would be like ultralight camping stuff. So I want to be like really cool, like heavier gear. Unless you want to buy it for me, and I can do that. Just kidding. But I love mushroom and pink hot dog. Yeah, I was surprised when I saw them in Pennsylvania because they had taken a week off in like somewhere in north, or like somewhere like below the halfway point, and then oh, thanks, Senior Camper Hikes. Yeah, so obviously I met them my first week on trail, and then they got ahead of me when I got off trail, and they stayed ahead of me until about the halfway point, and then I kind of like kept running into them like once a week for probably up until like New York or so, and then I just kind of took off like a rocket because I think they got off trail again because her cat died, I believe, which sucks. And I know she was kind of like not. We were talking at a gas station, and she was saying that she felt like she was done already mentally. She really didn't need to like go forward anymore. But Pink Hot Dog definitely wanted to keep hiking. And I think I know that they're still on trail, or at least it seems like they are, because I know that they're still putting out videos. But yeah, I mean, they were really cool. I like meeting them, and it was really fun to see them again because they were like the people that I met my first week on trail, which was awesome. And I saw them again. They caught COVID. Oh, that sucks. There were a couple people, not many, but a couple people I knew that caught COVID on trail, and I was like, damn, I couldn't even imagine. Like I am so happy I did not get sick once. Like no Giardia, no Noro, no COVID, none of that. Yeah, I couldn't imagine like being sick, and like because I've had COVID twice, and I was down. I would not be able to hike. Oh, they summited. Oh, that's awesome. I actually also did meet a guy who he started like February 1st. Oh, it was sometime in early February also, and his name was Blaze Dog, and I met him in Vermont, and it sucked because like I think we hiked around each other for like 2 days. He got picked up by his wife because he was doing the RV jumping thing, and I think in Vermont he caught COVID. I didn't see him again. Mike, your message was retracted. Big hot dog. Somebody with Hawk. I've heard of Hawk. I don't know who he is though. I might have met him. Yikes. Lots of people got COVID. That sucks. That's what you get for hiking in a group. Another reason I hike by yourself or with hardly anybody. Thank you, Jeff. Let's see. More things a novice hiker would not expect from getting out there. I'm trying to think of things that I learned when I first got on trail. Hog is Craig, Matt. Oh, okay. I should watch his stuff then. Oh, stretching. I feel like a lot of people underplay stretching. I mean, some people can get away with not stretching, but I'm not one of those people. Like I need to feel loose before I hike. Even if you hike for a mile or two and then stretch, that way you're warmed up. But I feel like that helps with like injury prevention, at least from like pulling muscles. Stretch, sleep with your filters for the winter, early spring. What else? Weights. Know how much your stuff weighs and like invest. Just do yourself a favor and like invest in like lighter weight gear up front. And then buy used. I can't scream this any louder. Buy used gear. Like all my gear was pretty much used. You just save money. You can buy lighter stuff for cheaper value. And I mean, yeah, the gear you might get might be a little stinky when someone used it on like a weekend trip, but you know, you're going to stink it up too. So just get over it and it'll be fine. So just buy the used stuff. I think a lot of people just go straight to boots as well. And like, I mean, honestly, I was one of those people, you know, just out there day hiking. And then like I learned about trail runners pretty early on. So I got into the trail running game. I started and finished with a ULA 2.0. Short. I started with a short torso, medium hip belt, and then my pack length stayed the same, and I got a small hip belt because I lost weight. And I don't have a gear video out because I mean I should do one this weekend or like between now and like Wednesday. But some of my gear is left at my sister's house or apartment in Atlanta. Just like the shoes and the sleeping bag liner, so like not that important. And then just the stuff is in my car. My car is just trash because I like have everything I own in my car, and I have a sedan, so it's just kind of buried. I mean, I really should do a gear video. I also left my trekking poles in Maine and Millinocket because like you can't really fly with trekking poles. In mine, like they like being short, they were like still at least 3-4 feet long, probably like 3 feet, 2.5 feet long. So I couldn't like fit them into my pack. So I just left them in Maine. And I wanted to get lighter trekking poles that broke down even smaller as well, or at least more compactable at trekking poles. So that's another reason why I just left them. Someone else could use them. I actually helped out a French Canadian girl. She was like doing a couple 100-mile long section, and I gave her like my MSR pocket rocket stove. I transferred fuel for her, so she had a full fuel tank. She was going out with like heavy, like car camping gear. I mean, but she couldn't get this stuff in Canada though, because it's really like stuff that's sold in the U.S. Yeah, she has some interesting stuff with her. Oh yeah, I use that fuel siphon thing a good number of times. I was hoping I'd use it a lot more often than I did, but I feel like some people kind of caught on to the fuel transferring thing more so than I would have thought. And so some people had that stuff on them as well. But yeah, I transferred fuel a good number of times. And even like I like carrying the big canisters because you can't see how much fuel you have. Like the best thing you can do is either like float it or shake it and just kind of like eyeball it really like auditorially. So I like getting like the small ones, then transferring the small one into the big one in addition to whatever I had already in the big one, just so I knew I had extra fuel, plenty of fuel. And then towards the end, I didn't worry about it as much because I wasn't cooking as much. Thank you, Mudflap. Any other questions? I could look up more sections I recommend. Vermont, I thought Vermont was pretty great. Northern Virginia, honestly, another unpopular opinion is that people will scream and shout about Pennsylvania rocks. It's the Virginia rocks that are really bad. Ooh, more towns. Let me try to see if I can think of more towns. That's not helpful. Go back. What kind of tent? I rocked the whole trail a trekking pole tent. It was the Dan Durson X-Mid 1-person. Honestly, pretty narrow inner. I had huge vestibule doors, but the inner was pretty narrow. I mean, it still worked for me. The inner was narrow, but I know that he just came out with a new model that probably got sold out like that. But the new model is like a 1.5-person tent and has different mesh things. But I use that tent in conglomeration with his Stargazer kit, so I could take off the rainfly and buckle in the guy lines to just set up the mesh inner. That was pretty cool because I don't think any other tent has that feature. So if I wanted to like stare at the stars, which I did do, I don't even know where that was at. I know it was in Southern Virginia, somewhere along like the Blue Ridge Parkway. I ended up camping on that in a field and had really awesome stars. And it was actually a meteor shower that night too, so that was pretty awesome. Other towns. Hot Springs was cool. It's all right. Good food. Irwin, and kind of so-so. Roan Mountain, not super great. I can only speak to places I've been. Obviously, Damascus. That's a pretty great town. Damascus diner, really good. The dinner was not great though. At least what I had. Next map. Back. Daleville, that was a good town, I thought. Questions. Do not want to Buena Vista. Any major changes? Maintenance. I need some dang maintenance and switchbacks and bear boxes in New York and North Carolina, especially. It would also be cool to implement. Man, I miss Aquaman by 2 miles. I'm so mad. I'll get into that in a second. But it would be cool to see them implement like the system that the PCT has, like the raffle system. I know that like there are so many access points on the AT, and the AT is near so many major cities and popularized areas. So it'd be really hard to like really filter out and control it with a raffle system. But because it is so popular and the erosion that's happening to the trail, something needs to be put in place. More bad weather routes. I don't know if any of y'all remember, but I also missed Quadzilla when I got off trail. But in New Hampshire, I was so mad in so many of the areas because like there are a couple of bad weather routes in North Carolina and south of New Hampshire, but there wasn't any through through like the Whites where you're completely exposed, you're the tallest thing on the rock. And you're just kind of forced to go over that. So whether you have to go through when you have bad weather and like good luck, or you skip the section. I don't know. I feel like there needs to be a bad weather route or some alternative. I think a really cool alternative would be just kind of go around the Whites. And the Whites, like, there's so many reasons, like environmentally, they're a very, very fragile ecosystem. So to reroute the AT around the Whites to at least prevent like the thousands of through hikers I go through every year. That's one thing. The huts are a ripoff. AMC, you need to get a hold of that. They're a ripoff. Some of the people are pretty rude that work there. Some people that work there are really awesome too at the same time. I mean, just to go around the whites, because like I don't understand why we're doing why we're making people do that. But I think there's a lot of, I mean, I don't know what like wilderness areas that lie on either side of the whites, but I think that there could be a lot to offer in terms of going around the whites. And then you're also preventing like people to continuously go over those areas where that are very fragile. And if you just prevent traffic or redirect traffic, that's another good idea as well, because the because like resources are very limited in the whites, and I think it'd be cool to just go around, and then people can have that option if they want to go around the whites, they can do so, take a slightly easier route or harder, I don't know, or to go over it and suffer the consequences of the AMC and all the bull crap that comes with it. Okay. I've never met Jay. I think I passed him at some point. I don't know where. And maybe I did meet him. I didn't know it was, I never met him actually. But I might have passed him at some point and like saw him, not know who he was. Aquaman, I missed just south of Pearisburg. He stayed at Whistle Hostel. I stayed at Weary Feet, and I was slackpacking south. And I slackpack just 2 miles. I started 2 miles north of where Woods Hole was, and he had started his hike at Woods Hole, so I never got to meet him. I just missed him. And then I met people that I knew going northbound. They were like, "Oh my God, we met Aquaman." I was like, "Are you kidding me?" I was still mad. And I also missed Quadzilla when I got off trail at the NOC. How was the trip home? The trip home was something else. I took 3 buses and a plane. And the flight that I actually had at a layover in Atlanta. So I had my sisters come pick me up at that airport. And then we drove 3 hours to Alabama, where my sister lives. What kind of support did I get from friends and family on the trail? My family, like my sisters were impressed. My grandma was impressed. I have a lot of siblings, and like 4 of them really had something to say. My brother doesn't have anything to say. My dad didn't have much to say. My friends were supportive. I had friends visit me in Hiawassee, but I told them let's not do that again. So it was very stressful trying to coordinate that. But I called whenever I could, whenever I had the energy to have a conversation, or I talked with people when I could. Quadzilla finished. PCT is on the final leg of his Triple Crown. Yeah, that's nuts. Those calendar year triple people, those were insane. I know I met the professor. At least I met him. And when I met him, he said he was doing the IAT, but it wasn't going into Canada. He was just stopping at the border, and then that was it. But he has then switched course to, I guess, do the calendar year Triple Crown. And I don't know if he switched courses again, and now he's doing like the most amount of miles in a year record. Yeah, I agree, Greg, but people are jerks, even if you're blood related. If you did it over again, what would you do? Anything different? Yeah, so I think Jerry, it would be interesting to start either like have them a couple weeks earlier than I already did start, so a lot emptier trail, or start like a month later than I have started. I really like, my birthday is March 4th, and I debate on starting on my birthday. But at the same time, I wanted to have like a trail birthday too. And it actually worked out really well timing wise, because I got to Fontana Dam like on 3-3, and I woke up 3-4 and went into the Smokies on 3-4, and I actually had like the best weather for my birthday I can even remember. And I got to sleep in, someone had an extra bed in their hotel room, so I slept in Fontana Village for free. And I woke up and I was like, this is gonna be the best birthday ever, like hotel breakfast. And then he was like, oh, there's actually no free hotel breakfast. But then he bought me breakfast, which was really nice. But yeah, I think it'd be interesting to start later, or even go southbound. Like over the past couple of weeks, I've been contemplating like, I don't know if I would do the AT again, but I kind of want to a little bit, but do it southbound. I almost went southbound a couple of years, like a year ago, but then I got a job and I worked an extra couple seasons. Also maybe spend a little bit more time in town and actually do town stuff and not have any like Neros on trail, or like maybe get off trail and do like more things. I don't know. Save more money, be a little bit more fit. But again, I had a fresher fit before I got on trail. So that was yeah, so it was with and then I follow a couple of Sobos on Instagram, and one of them I met in the Whites, and like since I did everything he's about to do, I'm just like, man, you're about to have the best part of the trail you're about to get into. I think it's already in Pennsylvania, but and then like I just feel like you just get all the stuck out of the way. Cause like when you're still, or even flip flop. I think flip floppers honestly are the people who are doing the thing right. Cause to like flip flop north of Harper's Ferry and then come back down and go south to Springer, like your summit isn't as like magical, but like you get your trail legs before hitting like the hard stuff north of like Connecticut or whatever. And you still have energy when you're going through the Whites in Maine. And then you come back down and like, the south is hard, but you have done like the worst parts of the trail. And now you have energy for the southern half. And the southern half is so, so sweet. So awesome. Like the ponies. Whoever commented what section would I recommend? Grayson Highlands. That was cool. Wow, I'm proud of us. We're over an hour. Anybody have any more questions? Questions, comments, concerns? Ooh, how about, what was the favorite thing that y'all saw? Or something that you liked about maybe my videos versus somebody else's? I did meet number 2 pencil a couple times. I first ran into him in Damascus, and that was cool. And then I saw him again in Daleville. And then when I saw him again in Daleville, he had actually jumped north because he had to pick up medicine. And I think he had problems with that for a couple of days. So I didn't see him again after Daleville, but I did meet number 2. Any plans for another long trail? Yeah, I would like to complete the Pinhoti, maybe restart it and get the footage that got deleted from my phone when Apple told me to reset my phone, even though I backed it up. So I lost all my videos and photos from the Pinhoti. So maybe redo that one again, or flip flop it. I don't know. And then CDT would be really cool. It just kind of depends on what happens with like the fires in the coming years. Like if they ever get under control, and like I think the CDT would be really cool if I could do like a mixed media of the CDT, like on all the really long road walks, we bike them or rollerblade them or something. That'd be pretty unique, I think. And the CDT is appealing to me also because there's so many routes. Like it's a true choose your own adventure. And I try to tie some of that into the AT, or like taking different alternates or like gray blazing where I wanted to gray blaze. I was saying that I would do the Foothills Trail again, but maybe link it up with, I think it's the Bertram Trail that is like 4 miles away from from the foothills trail. So maybe like do like one longer hike, and that would make it like 150 miles long. The Mountains to Sea Trail is really appealing to me. The only thing that's not appealing is that like 25% of it on like the sea side of it isn't like it's not like natural surface trail. So it's a lot of road walking on that half. Thank you, Greg. Thanks. Otherwise, I also watched Juliana or Julie something. She did the AT in 2019, and then she did the PCT this year, but got off early. She did a hike, or it was last year, but she did a hike in Pennsylvania, the Laurel something trail in Pennsylvania. And that one looked really nice, really cool. The terrain was pretty mellow, and she did it in the fall time. So the colors look pretty awesome. Julie Sheehan. Thank you. Sheehan. I like watching her AT videos. Those were entertaining. She was funny. Other hikes, though. Spelling. What do you mean? What spelling means. Yeah, on the Pinhoti Trail. So in Alabama, they're right off the bat, you do like 5 miles and then 6 miles. So like 11 miles in, you have 6 miles of road walk. And then you hike for another couple miles, and then you do I think it's like a 12 or 15 mile road walk. And then it's pretty much natural surface trail all the way up until the Georgia border. And then you have like almost the half of Georgia on the Pinhoti is road walking. And I know there's at least 40 or so miles. When I got back, I watched Julie Sheehan's video of the Laurel Falls Trail or whatever in Pennsylvania. And then I watched another one of her doing like a section of the AT. But I have not had time to watch other extended foothills trail. That's what they should call that connection. But I haven't had time to watch other people on YouTube, especially during my own hike. Hiking takes up a lot of your day. I've been watching Papa Bear also. I wonder if I met Papa Bear. I may have met him in Virginia, but there could be multiple Papa Bears. But I did meet a Papa Bear. But he didn't mention that he YouTubed. Met him at the pre-shelter. That was funny. Oh, from Bound to Baxter. Nice. That was my goal this year, was Bound to Baxter. And I kind of did it. I just skipped half the Pinhoti Trail. 2/3 of the Pinhoti Trail, really. Oops. Yeah. Nice. Did they take the Bent Mackay Trail up to the AT, or did they Yellow Blaze to the AT? My biggest thing with that, okay, was I really wanted to get a tag at Amicalola, and I was not about to hike I was not about to out and back the whatever the intro trails, the AT. I did it and I can't remember what it was called. A lot of road walking, yep. The Bertram Trail or the Ben Mackay Trail, that one I heard is pretty tough. I did a little bit on it the first time I did the Georgia Loop. And that hike is really hard too. A lot of ups, straight up. Road walking can be kind of fun though. It gets boring after like 5 miles, but it can be fun. Any other questions, comments? Oh, and if you guys haven't heard, I think you might be able to put in a an opinion, but I think so. I started to write a book about resupplying with thank you, Jerry. Um, resupplying with boxes on the AT. And a lot of people be like, boxes are stupid. However, this is really specifically for people with dietary needs like myself, who doesn't like trail mix, or like people who are on a budget, also like me, or if they want to spend less time in towns and they like want to know what they have coming to them. So I'm making a like a guidebook on that. But some people have brought to my attention like how would you keep it updated? And I'm thinking maybe just like post links to the other resources like Altaha has one, White Blaze has one, like list of resupply places and towns. It's just that like when I went through like the northern half, no one had made comment like even in the videos I'd watched, no one commented like expensive resupply. And I think that's important information for people to know that like isn't included in a lot of people's videos. Like, I mean, I complain about the prices of like the general stores. I mean, I understand why they're high, and that's why I would send a box instead of paying those prices. Somebody else can pay those prices, but I don't want to pay the prices. It was like $1.50 for a ramen. It's usually 50 cents. And stuff just went up from there. Watch Bear Trek Adventures. Ooh, videos are beautiful. Anytime I did not know if I was on the trail, I feel like there was a couple times like I'd gotten off the trail and like was really mad that I'd gotten off. But I was pretty good at like because I did a lot of trail maintenance before I started the trail, not on the AT, but for like my local municipality. So I have a pretty good idea of like when I'm on trail, when I'm off trail. But like and I did a lot of like looking back to see if I could see a blaze because in New York the blazes were really really bad, especially when you first get into New York. There's a lot of bouldering, and you just have to kind of pick a direction that you feel confident that the trail is going to go in and start walking in that direction and hope that there is a blaze on the other side of the giant rock that you're climbing up because you wouldn't see the blaze until you were over the rock, which I was so mad about. And I did a lot of like looking back, or like there'd be a lot of like unmaintained parts of the trail, and there would be like a blaze behind a branch, but like vegetation had grown in front of the blaze, so you didn't see it until you were past it, or like right there in front of it. Luckily, I think in New Hampshire, I was really like adamant about looking for the cairns and making sure I was seeing the cairns and I was on trail. Same in Maine, but in Maine or like northern New Hampshire, like right before Maine, the trail was really grown in. So like, and I think I might have included it in the video, but like there was a tiny area where people had obviously walked through, and there were times when I'm like, is this the trail right now? Like I was turning around, I'm like, okay, yeah, there's a blaze. I just don't understand like why this trail hasn't been maintained, especially when it's part of the AMC section and they're making as much money as they do. And the trail is hardly visible outside the AMC areas. But that was probably the biggest thing. But most of the time, I think I was on trail. Let's see. I might call it in like 5 minutes or so. And then if you guys want another video, you can definitely like comment on the post I made for this one. And I can do another one later, maybe even later this evening if you weren't able to show up or showed up halfway through or towards the end, or in the middle of the week or next weekend or something. or shoot me an email and I can answer any questions. Ooh, one time I was scared. I was in Vermont, and I don't know how much of this I put in the video, but I think it was in Vermont. Yeah, no, I need to do a gear video. But I woke up, so like my water bladder, before I threw my CNOC out, my water bladder fell from a branch, like a nub on a pine tree, onto my tent. And I woke up from that, and I thought a branch fell on my tent. I was like, oh my God, I'm gonna die. So I looked up, or poked my head on my tent, and I was like, oh, okay, it's just my water, it's fine. And I looked up and made sure, like, no dead branches. And uh, and I think I like poked my head back in my tent, and then like not soon thereafter, the craziest animal sounds. It was like a dog screaming. And I'm pretty sure it was a bobcat that was nearby, and that was crazy because to me, I thought I was by myself. And I was like, I don't even know what to do right now. It's like it was somewhere between 2 and 4 in the morning. And this thing is just screaming off in the distance. And it's like, do I clap my hands, like let it know I'm here? I'm sure it can smell me. I don't really know though. And so I woke up in the morning, I packed my stuff, and I fell back to sleep. And obviously I didn't die or get attacked. And I woke up in the morning, I started hiking. And there were I think they had to be southbound, but there were other hikers that were like camped like right on the side of the trail. And I was like, did you guys hear that last night? And they were like, yeah. And I was like, what was that? And they were like, I have no idea, but it was like pacing on the trail in front of our tents. And I was like, that sucks, but I'm glad you were here because like we had each other even though we didn't know we did. Um, yeah, that was a nutty time. I was also scared. Nothing ever actually happened, but ghost sharks, they're really defensive over their nest. And so I was scared that I was gonna get swooped on. Luckily that didn't happen. I'm happy I went Novo. Yes, I'm happy I went Novo because I went early. If I was forced into a bubble season, I don't think I would have been happy. Bigfoot. I think if I had been forced into a bubble season, I would have just waited, found something to do, and went southbound. If that had been the case, but luckily, or flip flopped. I think a flip flop would be really interesting also to do. I don't know if I would do it. I don't know if I'll ever do the AT again, but I would contemplate a flip flop or a Sobo hike. Thank you, Greg. I will try to make a gear video as soon as I get the motivation to do it. Have a good rest of your day. Got a minute and a half. Any last minute questions? Sounds good. Real quick, I can run down the gear that I carried the whole time. My tent, my pack, my sleeping bag liner, sunglasses. I carried my hat the whole way. I'm 24. Carried my hat, my beanie, 22, 24 though. I'll be 25 in 6 months. Scary. Oh my God, so old. I graduated college a year and a half ago, last May 2021. So I have a degree in natural resource management and sustainability, emphasis in community forestry management and arboriculture. So if there are any job opportunities in your area, hit me up. Yeah, other gear I carry the whole time. Same water filter, almost the same water bottle. I know you are. I know you're young too, Greg. You're 55 years young. Oh, not many. I don't think I ever told anybody, but I carried an elephant charm. And my friend gave it to me in a I think it was like a gift or whatever. It was like a keychain. It's an elephant keychain. I just kept it in my water bottle pocket the whole time. And I have like a big thing about elephants. I think they bring, they're like a thing where they bring good fortune. So I carried that the whole time. Anything else did I carry the whole time? I didn't carry many items. Some items I would have carried the whole time, but I lost them, like my P-Reg, my bidet, my trowel. Oh, spotter. Yeah, I'm a spotter. I switched outfits like 3 times. Kind of carried the same socks. I had at least one pair of socks I carried the whole time. But one of them did get lost in Waynesboro, Pennsylvania. That sucked. That might be it. I have to really go through. I had a DCF pouch for like my credit cards and money. Carried that the whole time. Hair tie. I think the one I have on my wrist right here. Carried that the whole time. Maybe even this one too. Carried. I think I had 4 on me the whole time. And of course, like my AT tag. I almost lost that one time actually. I think it like had it tied on to my cinch cord and it actually uncinched. All right. It is an hour and a half over or into this thing. If no one has any more comments or questions, I'll go ahead and call it. And then if you want, make a comment on the original post for this for another video or Q&A. That's cool. We can do it again. And I'll try to work on making a gear video in the meantime. But y'all have a good one. I'll see you in the next one. Bye. Thank you.